Welcome to GCCars. My name is Eric and this is the 2022 MINI Cooper Countryman SE All 4. A warm welcome to MINI on this channel. And today we're going to find out if their biggest vehicle, the Countryman as a plug-in hybrid, can live up to its not-so-mini price tag of $55,000 or if it falls short of expectations. Now in order to do that, we're as always going to take a look at the exterior first, then we're going to take a look at the interior, then we're going to drive it, and in the end we're going to sum it all up and the final thoughts and see if you should buy this 2022 MINI Cooper Countryman. But if you end up liking this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, because the more subscribers I have, the more cool cars and brands I can show to you for free every week in your inbox. With that being said, let's start taking a look at this Mini. And in terms of exterior, well, looks like a Mini. That's maxi. Yeah. No, I like the design. Honestly, Minis look kind of cute. I like how they look. This one's in British Racing Green, the best color you can put on a car from the UK. This is lovely. No, it's great. I love the daytime running lights. They turn into the indicators at night. The S looks very nice. I like the yellow and green contrast. Honestly, this is a great looking vehicle. On this side here, we have our charging port, which, there we go, allows you to, well, charge the vehicle. Charging times, the editing pedals we'll put on here. And I gotta appreciate that they didn't put huge tires, huge wheels on this. These wheels offer you plenty of sidewall to snag a curb if you accidentally do, or deal with unevenness and potholes. So good job for not going for huge ones. Like I said, this is the maxi Mini, the biggest Mini you can buy. So it's not quite as big. It's still a subcompact SUV, so it's like almost as small as they get in terms of SUVs, at least here in North America. But the proportions remain pretty well done. Overall, it looks really good, and the best part about them are the Union Jack tail lights. I just absolutely adore them. They are so fantastic. Anyhow, no, I love how this looks. This is great. Good job. I love Minis. But let's take a look at the interior. Okay, interior of the MINI Cooper Countryman, that, by the way, really likes to beep at you. Anyhow, let's start off with materials. This is the Premier Plus. This is as spec'd out as you can get a MINI Cooper Countryman in Canada, and I must say at $55,000, this is a bit of a letdown, because this whole door is plastic. Like, there's not a piece that is not plastic on here, which is very disappointing. It is soft plastic, to be fair, and it is not uncomfortable, but it's just for this price I expect a little more. What the Premier Plus gives us though is this Napa leather steering wheel and the upgraded full leather seats, and I gotta be honest, very nice. Both of them. The seats are comfy, have a good amount of adjustment, they're heated as well. I like them. The steering wheel, nice to grip, feels good. I like that as well. But now we move over to the dashboard, and once again, center console, everything is just kind of a little too plasticky in my opinion. Not uncomfortable, just not enough for the price. But let's move over to usability, which admittedly is very good, because they have retained most of the buttons are physical. So you do not need to go through the infotainment to put some, change some settings or anything. It's all over here, very easy to use. And God, I love those switches. These switches are just amazing, like the start stop switch and the select if we wanted to have hybrid mode or full electric, and traction controls board and all that. And we have the same up here. These switches are just great. I love these switches. I love these so much, and they go in both directions. Unlike the Mustang. I love that. Then the infotainment, admittedly, took me a while to get used to, and I have to tell you guys, I spend less time in this car than I usually do in a week, because I have been extremely sick the last few days. Like, it wasn't COVID, but I was still bedridden. I could barely do anything, barely eat, barely talk, barely drink anything. It was real nasty. This is the first day I'm able to talk again, and tomorrow I'm going to give the car back. So take everything, maybe if I'm a little confused on something, just so you know. Okay, that's why. Anyhow, infotainment took me a little while to get used to, but once I understood it was actually pretty straightforward. Don't have the most features in here, but everything is pretty quick to respond. Everything is pretty clearly laid out, and you have this little dial down here, which allows you to use it without having to touch it, which is especially nice if you're out on the road, out on the highway, you don't really have to look if you're hitting that button just perfectly. You can just use this, which makes it safer to use. Now, this digital, semi-digital gauge cluster has a good amount of information on there. It is nice to look at. It is, interestingly, it's coupled to the center, to the steering, which, by the way, does not come out or in, which is like, come on, guys, it's 2022. This should be telescoping. I think it's called telescoping, but instead it just goes up and down. Like, could be a little nicer. This is fixed to that. That's fine though. I just wish it would have a readout for how much my battery is charged. It like literally doesn't. It tells me how much range I have with battery only, but it doesn't tell me how much my battery is charged, which would be kind of nice. Then we have a head-up display, which works really well, works fine. It's one of the cheaper ones, which has like one of the plexiglass panes come up in front of you, but whatever, it works well. I don't mind that. Then two more things. We have a sunroof here that's kind of split. This is manual, which wouldn't be too big of an issue if that wouldn't mean that I literally cannot operate the back one while I'm driving. I can't reach further than this. It's like, come on. Once again, $55,000. It's a bit of a theme here. And then we have our wireless phone charger, which doesn't fit modern phones, unfortunately. This is an S21 Plus, not even an Ultra, and even without a case. Fortunately, it doesn't fit in here. Otherwise, a nice thought actually to put it in here. Let's see how it is in the back though, okay? How about we do that? Beep, beep, beep. Okay, back seats of the Mini Cooper Countryman, and even this being a subcompact SUV, I'm 5'7", like I said, I barely ever get tight in the back of cars, and same here. So like, knee room is good amount of foot room, headroom is fine, although if you are like over 6 feet, maybe it could get a little tight. We can pop up our headrest, which was down for rear visibility, right? And we're actually pretty comfy. So this is actually a position in which I could fall asleep in, which is nice if you want that, if you're on longer road trips. But in terms of like usability and material, so this is just a front, it's all plastic, right? Then we have pouches on both sides, which is nice. USB-C slots, and then we have big storage down here though, for like big bottles and all the things you could need on a road trip. So that's well thought out. Of course, we do have cup holders in here, and I just love how manufacturers figure out new ways to overcomplicate this area. Every time, so here we push a button, and then it pops up in both directions. This is not a critique, by the way. This is just, I literally just enjoy how quirky this is. Instead of just having them like, open like that, just like, no, let's make a split cover that pops up in both directions. It's like, love it. Anyhow. This is fine. Like honestly, if you're not too tall, you'll be super, you won't have an issue being in here and being comfy. With that being said, let's pop this back down. There we go. And take a look at the trunk, shall we? Good evening. The trunk of the Mini Cooper Countryman is not huge, but it's also like the 5th shortest vehicle I've literally ever driven. So we have 15.9 cubic feet of space, but Mini made sure that of the space you have, you can make the most out of it with a bit of netting. Right here we have grocery bag hangers on both sides, which is perfect. We have our charging cable just down here. And other than that, it is, well, it's a trunk. As you can see, you fit humans. If you need more capacity, either for legitimate or illegitimate reasons, and if you want to have even more, you can get up to 45.0 cubic feet of space thanks to a 40-20-40 split, pardon me. You just have to go around and do every single seat individually. But that's pretty common for subcompacts, so I'm not gonna critique that. Let me just get around to the other side real quick. And now, like I said, 45.0. Anyhow, I would say we wrap this up and get driving. Okay, now out on the road here in the Mini Cooper Countryman, and as always, we start off with the launch traction control off. We want to have it in sport mode, and we want to go everything ready. Wonderful. Let's brake torque and see how quick she goes. Okay. And there we go. Wow, that was quick. Okay. Okay, she's playful. That's good. That was good. Let's go back into normal, turn on traction control and everything. Okay, that was fun. That was so we have, it's a hybrid, right? So we have powering the front wheels, a turbocharged 1.5 liter inline 3, and the rear is powered by an electric motor, which takes its power from a 10 kilowatt hour battery, and the combined output is 221 horsepower and 284 pound-feet of torque. What you saw is as soon as we turn off traction control, even our little 3-cylinder up front, it gets a little sporty, it gets quite ambitious and powers through, and I love to see that. That was a lot of fun. And in general, you have plenty of power. Like I said, 221 horsepower, 284 pound-feet of torque. It is very nice to drive, especially even if you're only driving in an electric mode. You can feel a little limited, but especially in the city, it's just so nice to have the smoothness of like an electric drivetrain. No shifts, just constant acceleration, constant smooth acceleration. I really actually enjoyed this Mini Cooper Countryman in terms of its drivetrain. But let's see in normal how quickly the transaction reacts. 50 kilometers an hour normal drive mode. Takes a second to shift, but once it's got it, it's going. And we got a 6-speed transmission here, and I always criticize Mazda because they have a 6-speed transmission, and I just think it's a little slow, it's a little outdated, and I have not learned to dislike this 6-speed so far. It's been doing a very good job. Of course, that is kind of masked by having the electric powertrain off and drive the car in inner cities, right? That's especially where you would notice the 6-speed, where this will just make it up with the electricity because no gears, and it'll just go without any interruption. So that's kind of the best combination for a 6-speed. Other than that, you just notice it's not the quickest to shift. We can't shift ourselves, so just with the shifter here. By the way, perfect position for a manual, just want to point that out. So we are in 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, automatically upshifted there. It reacts pretty quickly, but because it auto upshifts and all that, it just kind of like becomes a bit of a moot point. So just leave it in regular mode. Put it into sport if you have to, and you'll be good. Let's turn left though onto the road, which is horrible, and see how well this Mini Cooper Countryman fares. You see why we hate, bro. Okay, so after the cyclist has finally let it by, it is quite comfy. What I find is smaller bumps get absorbed really, really well. So even this here, it is very comfy. But if you have like sharper, bigger bumps, for example, speed bumps, they do get absorbed not quite as nicely as I wanted to. So speed bumps are quite harsh in this. It is really the smaller bumps that it fares with very well. But the bigger one is a little imperfect. Not like uncomfortable, but normally in SUVs these days you don't really have to slow. Like if you go on 30 kilometers an hour and there's speed bumps, you don't have to slow down because they're well, the suspension is doing a good job. But here it's a little more iffy. So overall the suspension is nice, but just some of the harsher bumps aren't perfect. Noise though is really good, I think, for the price. It's never too loud and you don't hear too much road noise, not too much wind noise. So it is quite a comfy cruiser. We do want to test handling real quick. We do have to get into sport traction for that though, because otherwise everything is dead. So let's see how well she handles. It's a Mini, right? So they're always a little more on the fun side, supposedly. And there we go. So unfortunately, even sport traction isn't enough to let this thing do anything fun. For some reason, they have put the most aggressive traction control into this Mini that I have ever seen. It is actually quite ridiculous. Even when you're doing like minor handling tests, like you don't even get to a point where you have any understeer or anything because the traction control is just like, no. So it's more like a valet mode than it is really traction control. So if you want to have any fun, you got to turn it all off, unfortunately, which I'm not really a big fan of, but that's what you got to do. But handling wise, this is actually pretty decent. The cool thing is, with our electric motor powering the back, we do get quite a bit of rotation out of this, which I really did not expect. Like, I read up on it before and I was like, oh really? And then the first on-ramp I was a little more sporty on, I was like, oh yeah, really? So this is actually quite spirited in terms of its driving, and true to what you expect maybe from a Mini in terms of, you know, their brand image is a little more on the sporty side, right? Just like I said, traction control, I wish this would be a little more lenient. This is just way too aggressive. And what also hampers the driving and the spirited driving, which might just be unique to the Countryman, this is the first Mini I've driven, so I'm hoping like the smaller versions are a little better in that regard, but this steering is just 100% dead. There is no feedback coming out of this steering, which means that once you start pushing it, you have no idea what's going to happen. So you start pushing on the on-ramp or something, wherever you are, so that you can safely and within the law push the vehicle a little bit, and you just at a point where, okay, I have no idea what's going to happen next, because this steering does not communicate at all with me. And combine that with a car that does rotate a little, but will eventually understeer because it's still like a front-wheel drive based car, right? You're like, okay, what's going to happen? So you don't really feel safe to push, and especially if you're traction control on, you at some point you're just going to run into a wall. So I'm going into detail here because I think they left potential on the table, which is a little unfortunate. This has potential to drive really nicely and really fun. Maybe you have to step up to the John Cooper Works for that. That'll probably drive a lot nicer, but as is, this already has potential, which they unfortunately didn't quite capitalize on, I think. But in terms of tech, this is all right. You have most of the driving assist and safety features you want to have. You have good adaptive cruise control. You have front emergency braking, which is like the #1 most important thing to have. We don't have blind spot monitoring. We don't have any like semi-autonomous lane centering systems, unfortunately, but the main things are covered. Although, of course, for $55,000, at some point, we got to be honest, and I might expect a little more tech out of the vehicle than what we have in this Mini Cooper. But that pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about in the driving segment. So why don't we send it over to the final thoughts and sum it all up. Okay, final thoughts on the 2022 Mini Cooper Countryman SE All-4 Premier Plus. Very short and concise name, I must add. Now, I didn't drive this as much as I would have liked to, unfortunately. But from the little driving, I still drove like 250 or 300 kilometers in the end. From the driving I did do, I did enjoy driving the Mini. I think it was nice to drive. I think it was comfy. I think it worked really well overall. So I think it's a nice car. But at a price of $55,180 Canadian before any incentives, it certainly is quite the ask for what you get in return, in my opinion. You get a lot of character, you get a lot of history, and you get a lot of quirkiness. But some of the material choices and some of the functionality on the interior with the manual shade and the wireless charger, for example, that just doesn't fit modern phones, is not as good as some other competitors can offer. Now, speaking of competition, there's actually not very many subcompact hybrids that you can even buy out there. But there's plenty of compact SUV hybrids that would compete with this in terms of pricing. And yes, they might be from lesser brands, but you get more value, and in the end you get a nicer product out of it. That is not to say that I don't think anybody should buy this. Actually, no, I really liked it. Like I said, it drives really well. It is very comfy, and like I said, if you want to have a car that, you know, is not as bland, it is not the same as everyone else drives, and it has a bit more character, it says something about you, it says something about your lifestyle, then get a Mini Cooper Countryman, especially in British Racing Green, because that is fantastic. So in that case, yes, go for it. But if you're a little more frugal, if you really want to have the best bang for your buck, I don't think this is the choice. Other than that, I did enjoy it. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this review. Please let me know what you think of this Mini Cooper Countryman. Post it down in the comments below. I would really much like to know your opinion, because just want to make sure I'm in touch with the market and all that. Anyhow, if you really liked it, like I said, please make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, because it costs you like $0. And next week there's going to be another car review of a car that I actually don't know what it will be yet, but I'm sure we'll make it exciting and fun. So if you like car reviews, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And thanks so much for watching. Hope you liked it, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.